everyone, it's IRL,
Farzan.
and today we are talking about
Lofty.
fractionalized real estate investing.
Woo!
All right, so I know a little bit about Lofty, but let's break it down for me in a nutshell. What is Lofty for people who don't know?
Yeah. So at the very basic level, you can invest in real estate starting at $50. And these are, residential properties. So they're properties and houses and flats that people are living in. And when you invest in these properties, you get access to um, a handful of benefits. So one of the benefits is you get access to the appreciation. So if the price of the house goes up, the price of your share also goes up. You get access to the rental income. So when there are people renting out these houses, you get a little bit of that rental income. And what I really like is that it gets paid into your account daily. So every day you can check your account and it would have ticked up by, a very little bit. So that's sort of the main premise of it. If we want to get into a bit more of the details, they put each property inside like a legal entity, which is just for the protection of the investors and for Lofty themselves. So it comes down to benefit you. But what they also do is they actually give you access to all of the paperwork. So they give you access to all of the legal documents, and they give you access to any tax documents, which I think is really useful because they can help you. The documents help you when you're filing taxes. I think it's so you get access to that property's documents, so the legal documents, or who actually holds the property, how much it was bought for, anything like the surveying of the property. So before they actually buy it, they get a survey done to make sure that the house is in good condition. The roof's not caving in, there's no damp. Things the sort of due diligence you would do if you're buying your own house or renting your own house. You get access to those documents. And then on the tax side, it's from my understanding, they can provide you the documents for the properties that you have invested in. And I believe that helps you understand, and it outlines how much you've actually earned from those properties and from the rental income, because that gets paid straight into your account.
Is that your Lofty account, or does that get paid straight into your wallet?
So that would be your Lofty account. But the great thing is, whenever you want, you can actually claim that money. So you can either claim it to your bank account or you can claim it to your Algorand wallet, and they pay out in USDC.
So, people who want to invest in real estate and they can't afford a whole house can buy part of a house.
Yep.
And it's my understanding that, like you said, within that legal framework that they have set up, that they set aside some of what they make on fractionalizing it to maintain the property, right? So like if you're a landlord and the heater goes out, you gotta fix that.
Yep.
And it worked into it, right?
Yeah, part of the rental income actually goes into the reserve for that house. So, if the boiler breaks down, they can get repairs done. So they work with property management companies. So they work with people who actually know the industry inside and out, who's, it's their day job to help get these houses filled. A really cool thing, which I like, is kind of the governance side of what they're doing, right? So if you hold a token in one of these properties, if some, for example, some work needs to be done, um if the work isn't necessarily urgent, they may send out an email saying that, this is the current situation. We have some issues with, perhaps, the boiler. There's some issues with the boiler, it's not urgent. How would we like to proceed? We can either just fix it now and it will cost approximately this much, or we can wait to do it at a later date. It's like almost like a DAO where, everyone who holds a token in this property gets a vote and gets a say in how the property gets managed. It breaks it down even in cases where, if a tenant hasn't paid their rent on time, how would the token holders like to proceed? They may say, we give them, an extra month of time. We try discuss with them, see if we can arrange some sort of a payment plan. If that doesn't work, they'll outline a number of next steps that they could take, and you actually get to vote on that. So it makes you feel like it really is like your own sort of property, and you have a vested interest in, how it gets managed and what the outcome is. Normally, if you want to get into real estate, you need, a, a, a a lump sum of cash to either get a mortgage to actually, put into this property, or if you want to save up the full amount, that can take, forever. So it makes it accessible to a lot more people, and it enables people to start building like an income stream, which would otherwise be inaccessible for them.
Personally, I'm a huge fan of DeFi in general, right? The whole concept of
Mhm.
bringing financial tools that might not be accessible to everyone and kind of leveling the playing field, right? Having access to other parts of DeFi. But real estate is something that historically, especially in America, but all over the world,
Mhm.
that is how you build and develop wealth. And especially, like I said, in the States, but pretty much globally. So I love the fact that it gives that tool to pretty much anyone, right? $50 can get you a share. They basically set aside a reserve off of the initial tokenization sales. And then they give you kind of an estimated, they don't just buy any house, but they're all over the country. Just in the US so far though, right? As far as like where the properties are located.
Yeah, currently just in the US. There are a few different projects that are trying to do this in other places. There's one trying to do it in the UK, and maybe some other places as well. So, it's obviously a market which people are interested in. And I think that kind of shows. So Lofty recently passed a massive milestone where they had paid out $1 million worth of rental income, which is quite a lot, especially, seeing that the project, has only really taken off or really started in the past, I'll say 1 to 2 years. Um, that's it's like amazing, and it sort of shows the scale and the market that they're able to address.
So all of Lofty's properties that you can buy pieces of are in the US. But as far as I know, you can buy it all over the world. You can participate in the UK. Friends all over the world, they can basically invest in US rental real estate. And I know they have been live for just over a year now. Is that correct? Or right around a year? As far
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not sure of the exact date, but I would say a year is probably, maybe just over a year is probably a good estimate.
yeah, so they've been live with actual properties and
Mhm.
actual rent for about a year. And they kind of give you some projections when you go shopping
Mhm.
for different properties. They give you a list. And then once you're in, right? Let's say you pull the trigger, you own some real estate, and you decide it's not for you, you can actually go sell that, right?
People can basically buy and sell tokens between themselves, and it would work sort of like an exchange for, whether that's stocks and shares, or crypto, where they will list all of their different properties. You can click into a property and say, you can see who's selling any tokens, and you can buy them just off the market, or you can actually put an order in. So, there may be a property that you're interested in. You may say, I want to buy, 10 tokens of this property for example, $55. And that order will sit on the market. Then when somebody else comes along who wants to actually sell their tokens, they can say, hey, this person wants to buy the token off me for $55, which is maybe $5 more than I paid for it. So that person actually has someone to actually sell to, and that is gonna create a lot of volume for Lofty in their secondary market, because people will not want to hold on to every property they buy forever, which is understandable, and this creates a way for them to actually trade with other people in I guess the Lofty or real estate community, without having to manually reach out to Lofty, wait for their response, so on and so forth. They can just do this completely off of their own backs.
I know their secondary market is live. I didn't know about the buy. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think they like little newsletter they send out, and it actually lists which properties that people are buying above the market price, and which properties people are selling below the market price as well.
Kind of return do people see on this? I know they give some projections when you're pricing out properties as far as some potential return.
I've got the website open right now. The top one I can see is 20.5%, which is, from my understanding, inclusive of appreciation and rent. Obviously, it's not financial advice, but Lofty do say themselves that these numbers are just estimates based on their understanding of the market, of the rental income. They've got a lot of systems in place to help people or help investors understand what their options are when it comes to investing in these properties.
So, okay, you decide you want to invest in real estate. But instead of going the traditional route where you have a lump sum of cash, I can tell you mortgages in the US are way different if you're not going to live in the home. Much harder to get a loan for a house that you're not going to be living in or what we would consider your primary residence. So normally, yeah, you have to have some amount of cash. Then you either have to manage the property or pay a management company. You have to carry insurance, which is also more expensive than your average homeowner's insurance. And you're ultimately responsible for those calls in the middle of the night if you don't have a very expensive maintenance company, anyways, right? Like,
Yeah,
athlete does all that, right? You
yeah.
decide instead of going that traditional route, you buy some tokens. Are those tokens good indefinitely, or are they like bonds? Do they expire after 10 years, or am I going to own this house forever?
They're good as long as Lofty is round, right?
Like you said, you can accumulate different properties, but you get paid daily for the rent.
Daily.
That's cool. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want daily?
Exactly, exactly. It's cool to see your like your balance on your account tick up every day. And it breaks it down for you. It tells you, you had this much coming from this property and that much coming from the other property. So you actually get a nice breakdown of, how much you're getting.
The way that they fractionalized it, like you said, all the title work is there. It's really interesting how they've kind of worked it in, but it's also almost a DAO, but it's not a DAO because you have all these people on the back end that are like managing the management companies like that. It's I don't understand how hands off they've made it, right? Because like
Yeah.
even if I had all the money in the world and I wanted to invest in real estate, I'd still have to manage my management company to some extent, and it's
Mhm.
you can choose to not vote if you don't want to participate in the decisions. But then once the community makes a decision, I know I've seen on the listings where they say, hey, this tenant 3 months ago was late. The community decided to give them another 60 days. As of now, we're back on track. But that history is there for you to see. They also are very cool and very deliberate on where they buy and what they buy and what neighborhoods they're in and why they're in those neighborhoods. It's really interesting to kind of look at the transparency of it. I feel like sometimes when you go to buy or sell a house, people always put kind of their best foot forward.
Mhm.
And you go to buy a house and you're like, oh, what's the disclosure list?
Yeah.
And it's already kind of there. Like
Mhm.
you have to inquire to find out what's wrong with the house. It's like anybody can read it.
Yeah, yeah, like, even if you don't own the property, you can, and you're interested in it, you can click into it. You can look at the financials. So it, shows you the estimated house price, how much maintenance costs, how much, the listings would cost, the vacancy reserve. Then they tell you, we expect to pay this much in taxes on the rent, and insurance and property management. So they literally break it down for you like an itemized list, this will cost us this much for every single thing that they need to pay out for. And then you get access to all of the documents, which is like just like twice as good. They have documents regarding the operation agreements, renovation and updates, inspection reports. So they give you a lot of information before you even buy the property, before you even decide to invest. So you can actually look and be confident, in what you're buying, to make sure that the paperwork is all there. When I set it up, I began setting up my account like 5 minutes before the property went live. And during that time, I had to do like my KYC stuff. And within that 5 minutes, I was ready. So it doesn't even take a long time. So they've somehow just made everything so smooth. And it's almost quite pleasant to actually use. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so they use Algorand. They basically buy them out of their own coffers, cut them into pieces, and sell them on the blockchain. And then they manage everything. You get
Mhm.
paid rent, assuming the person pays rent. And if they don't pay rent, you get to kind of decide what to do next as a
Yeah,
group.
yeah. Actually pay in either by like a credit card or
Mhm.
debit card, or you can pay in Algorand, or you can pay in USDC. So you have like three big options there. So people who have a lot of their assets on the blockchain can actually pay using that, and that's usually ends up being quicker than trying to pay with your credit card. Because if you choose to pay with Algorand, the little my Algo wallet pops up, you sign the transaction, and like 5 seconds later, it's done.
I know we all have friends that wonder why the crap we're so passionate about blockchain.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of, well, all the segments I do with you are decentralized internet access. I mean, all of these things are groundbreaking. And if you start connecting the dots, that really empowers a whole population of people across the world. I'm
Yeah.
in. Time, friend.
Cool. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll catch up with you again next week.